Hey friends, Jill here. Welcome back to Whispering Willow Farm. As you guys can see, I'm out in my greenhouse this morning. Very familiar space to you guys, and I'm going to be separating out some Mira amaranth seedlings I got from my friend Jessica. She had sowed a bunch of these. She also sowed an orange variety. I'll grab that one in a second. And she asked me if I wanted them because she didn't need them. I immediately said yes because I can't turn down plants. I've heard about amaranth. It's really beautiful, but I've never grown it before. I've just never bought the seeds. And since I am doing more cut flowers this year, I know that this is really beautiful in a bouquet. And so I'm going to be keeping some of these for myself. I'm also going to be up potting these and selling some at the plant sale. But I'm really excited. You guys can see they're really beautiful. So the amaranth family itself actually includes like flowers, herbs, weeds, and some amaranth varieties are actually just grown and harvested for food. Like they're grown for grains, which I thought was really interesting and really cool. I love growing something that can be super diverse. And so knowing that just like all the different varieties and things that you can do with them, I thought was really cool. And then they'll actually produce this like long drooping bloom of flowers, which looks really pretty in bouquets, like I mentioned. Just really kind of cool. They prefer a warm climate, which works really well for where I'm growing, zone 7B. So I'm curious to see how this will do for me. I know that it is something that is really popular in my area, so I was just kind of excited to grow this. You guys can see she sows multiple in these 2.5 inch pots, which is what I have started doing as well. There's quite a bit in here, so I'm just going to gently separate these out. So one of the cool things about amaranth is it's pretty versatile. With most flowers, you'll hear a lot of people recommend that you just directly sow them. Amaranth is one of those flowers though that it will do well whether it is directly sown into your garden or started indoors and transplanted out. It doesn't really take a shock from what I've been told, and just does really well. You guys can see there's some good root systems on here, so that's nice too. I always like trying to grow flowers that I know I can start ahead of time. That way I'm just like kind of have a leg up in the season, and so that is one thing that I really prefer about this, is knowing that I can start this indoors, get myself a heads up. It's not really going to take any type of shock. It actually does just fine being started indoors and then transplanted out. Obviously, you do want to make sure that it's like in some sort of good, well-draining soil. The better your soil is, the looser your soil is, however full of nutrients it is, the taller these plants will get. So if you've got like good nutrient-dense soil, all the things that amaranth loves, which it really loves, like nitrogen and phosphorus. So if you're providing all of that in the bed that you're doing this, these things can get pretty stinking big. So if you're growing those in those optimal conditions that are just catering to this specific flower's needs, I mean, I've heard that they've gotten over 8 feet tall, which is crazy. Now, if you just have your standard soil and you're not really adding all those other things in, they can still get to like 4 to 6 foot tall, which is so incredibly wild to me when you're thinking about this flower, because I'm just picturing it getting so tall and then just having those drooping blooms. I just imagine it being so beautiful. So, I don't know. I'm really excited. I'm hoping that this is one of those that I love as much as I am fascinated with it. That way it can just be a repeat in my garden every single year. I've been told that the seeds are kind of hard to find and they go out of stock often, so I'm really fortunate to have a friend who lent me some of hers. I'll definitely want to save the seeds from this though. When it comes to up potting them, and I'm up potting these because they were all in this container and they're fighting for nutrients, they're getting a bit leggy. So I am putting them in some 2.5 inch pots is what I've got going on here. I am probably going to plant these kind of deep. For the most part, the stems of these are pretty good and thick and established, but I am going to go ahead and just kind of, you guys can see they're kind of getting a bit wonky, so I'm going to try to plant them deep and see if it won't correct itself. I also have officially run out of all working table space in the greenhouse. I'm gonna have to move some sort of table in here, figure out a better system. So right now I am hunkered down in the shade on the floor in my greenhouse doing this. I'm not really that upset by it, but it is kind of funny that I have resulted to up potting my things on the floor. So now you guys can see I've got it planted a bit deeper, especially compared to how leggy it was. And now I'm hoping that it's just gonna thrive and keep growing pretty well. So I've got quite a few of these to do. When you start thinking about all the versatile and amazing things that amaranth is good for and like just the ways you can use it, it kind of makes me question why I've never put this in my garden before, because it really is just such a well-rounded, versatile plant. So when you're actually like planting it out in the garden and it begins to get their small first true green leaves, I guess if you will, you can actually harvest those and eat those on your salads, or you can top it on an omelet. It tastes similar to spinach. I've actually had amaranth greens before. I have grown them as sprouts, microgreens before, and they taste really good. Actually, they taste really good. It is really pretty to have that color if you're adding, you know, maybe you're selling microgreens. If you're wanting to sell some sort of salad mix or smoothie mix, I have found that typically they sell better when they have that splash of color. So the amaranth, maybe the red cabbage, things like that. So that's one really cool way. If you don't want to grow it, say for a flower, you could grow it just for greens. And then when you've passed the baby greens and you start to get those more mature greens, but it's not quite flowered yet, you can actually take those. They're really healthy, have a lot of nutrients, very nutrient dense food. You can saute those. You can put them in with like other collard greens or turnip greens. You can put them in with soups. Obviously, it produces a beautiful flower, but then in the fall, when it starts to turn to seed, you can actually take those seeds and eat them. And it's packed with all this like just crazy protein. It has got a really nutty flavor, but they are edible, and it's like super nutrient protein packed, which I think is really cool because I just listed off so many, every single stage of this flower's life. I listed off where you could use it. So the baby greens, the leaves, the flowers, obviously you can't eat that. When it's flowering, you would just use that to sell or bouquets, decoration, but then you can actually save the seeds and eat them. That's why some people, different varieties, they grow it for the grain. It's so stinking versatile, and I absolutely love plants like that where I feel like I'm getting a big bang for my buck. I feel like I can just use it in so many different ways. So I will say I have grown these as microgreens before. I've never grown them for the actual flower, but I'm pretty sure after this year I'm gonna harvest the leaves on these, eat them. I'm going to save some of these seeds in the fall and eat them. And just kind of do an overview of like, yeah, I really preferred when they were the baby greens. I really liked having their, you know, mature leaves in soups, or I really just enjoyed eating, you know, the saved seeds from them. I think that'll be kind of curious. I know a lot of people just grow these for the flowers, just for bouquet purposes, which you can obviously do, but you don't find a lot of flowers like that that are so versatile and you can use them. Granted, like sunflower shoots, I've grown those as microgreens before, but for the most part, when you look at the roots on that, wow, that's impressive. But for the most part, when you're thinking about a flower, you're not, I mean, you can grow the sunflowers as shoots and eat them, but you're not harvesting the leaves from a sunflowers. They're not edible. You can obviously save the seeds and have the sunflower seeds, but let's say a zinnia, for instance, you're not going to be growing zinnia sprouts. You're not going to harvest the mature leaves from the zinnias. You're not going to be eating the seed. So when you think about a flower that can be used as an edible or as an arrangement, I'm going to say that the amaranth is probably one of the most versatile flowers for that. So it's a win in my book just because all the uses for it. I really appreciate flowers like that. And it's just a stunning flower, so there is that too. So if you are watching this video and maybe you're wanting to add flowers to your garden, you're wanting to direct sow some and you don't really know what option you should choose, I'm I'm going to tell you that I think amaranth is just overall a super versatile flower. I've just listed off several ways you can consume them, you can eat them, you can use them to decorate with. So I would argue that this cute little guy deserves to be in your garden if maybe you're looking to add some different things in there this year. So the other amaranth I'm potting up is the Coral Fountain. This is a beautiful pink color. It's so beautiful that I actually pulled it up on my phone to show you guys. This one is probably, in my opinion, the most beautiful amaranth. It is just, I'm going to show you guys how pretty it is. Alright, can y'all see that? Look at that color. I mean, this is so incredibly wild, like so beautiful. I just imagine like this beautiful bouquet of these like Sun Pro cut sunflowers, and you've got these long dangly pink and reds. I don't know, I think this is gorgeous. So amaranth is a flower that does require full sun, so be mindful of that if you are going to plant it out in your garden. Make sure it's not really in a shaded spot. You know, the soil just well drained, much like any flower. I would say really anything. I'm going to recommend that you've got good quality soil that is well drained, nutrient dense. Your plants are just going to thrive and do so much better if you provide them the optimal conditions and environment to live in. I just always refer to my plants kind of like me. If I feed myself with good nutrients, I'm going to grow, I'm going to be strong, I'm going to withstand some damage, right? Same thing when it comes to my plants. If I plant them in good nutrient dense soil, I give them everything they need to just grow and thrive, more than likely they are going to just do that. They're going to grow and they're going to thrive, and I'm going to have an amazing plant. So if I'm providing this plant with everything it needs, I'm just setting it up to have a really successful season, to produce well, for it to withstand some winds, maybe some deficiencies that might come along. I'm just going to avoid that more than likely by going ahead and putting things in the soil that I know that it enjoys. It will adapt to most soil conditions. However, I always just think cater to your plants and you're going to have better plants. Thanks for hanging out with me in the greenhouse today as I up-potted these. I still have quite a few left to do, so I'm going to get busy doing that. If you're looking for a flower to add into your garden, or just that's super versatile, absolutely stunning, you can, like I said, use it at really every stage of its life. I would highly recommend you guys look into amaranth. There's the Love Lies Bleeding, there's the Mira. Obviously, here's this Coral Fountain, which I think is probably the prettiest in my opinion. It's just a really versatile. So I hope this video kind of showed you just how versatile it was, and maybe now it'll be a contender in your garden, and I can see some of the photos you guys take of this pretty flower. But thanks for hanging out with me today. I'll talk to you soon.